hear me.
All right, welcome to the AWX Community Meeting. It's August 8th, 2023. We've got a pretty packed agenda today, so I will go ahead and take it over to what will be going on. First up, we have, let's see, I believe this is Greg. Greg, are you ready to go ahead, or should we come back to you?
I appear to have audio now, so
oh,
I can.
Perfect.
All right, good timing.
Perfect timing indeed. Thank you to Jake for that recommendation in the chat. Sorry, I've literally just rejoined. Just Discourse, fantastic. I love it. What would you like me to talk about? How invited me last night, and I'm currently running off a backup laptop because my work laptop has decided not to join any calls today. So if technology, right? If it worked properly, we all wouldn't have jobs. So I can give a quick overview of where we're going with this, if that's what we're looking for. Yeah, I'm seeing nodding. Okay,
that would be perfect.
from a high level, then, why are we doing Discourse? And this doesn't just apply to AWX, right? This applies to the whole of Ansible. So if you want to get involved in the Ansible community today, it is not easy to know where to start. I have had this conversation with many potential contributors at the conferences I've been at over the last 6 to 12 months, and it pretty much goes like this. I want to be involved in Ansible, and I can't say, well, go here. I have to say, what are you interested in? Which bit of the project is interesting to you? What are you coming up against? What sort of issues are you trying to report? I need to know more before I can direct them. Now, if I have to do that at a conference, how many people are not getting that information in a one-directional manner from our websites and so on, and not figuring out where to go, right? And on top of that, we could also talk about development process and how, if we look at various other communities out there, the ability to have a formal discussion around things is better when you have it in one place, right? When you can bring everybody into that debate. And when you look at the Ansible community, we've got 8 mailing lists. Last time I checked, somewhere in the region of 20 repos have got GitHub discussions enabled, although only about 5 are using it strongly. We've got 500 GitHub repositories, 7 GitHub organizations, I believe. It's just really, really hard to solve this problem without bringing another tool in. So this is a little bit XKCD. This is a little bit, we have 17 standards, let's make an 18th one, right? But it is fundamentally different. And it is also fundamentally about bringing in something that you can filter more easily, that you can approach in a slightly different way and bring it apart from all the other fire hose of stuff that you're dealing with, right? So the goal is to bring in both support. Where does support happen today? Well, the mailing list traffic peaked in 2014. So yeah, there's still stuff going on there. I don't want to be sassy to the people who still use the mailing list, but yeah, it peaked in 2014. It's down to less than like an eighth of its original traffic, I think. That's not happening on Stack Overflow. That took over from the mailing list in 2018, but that has now peaked as well. Reddit has its own troubles, but we do some support on Reddit. Actually, I think the quality there is actually quite good, but limited. And more importantly, we're not seeing any of that, right? How much feedback do we get as developers about how people are using or not using our products if you don't go looking for it? So bringing that back in-house and learning from it is one of the goals. And then also having a project discussion area where we can at Core or at AWX or at Galaxy and trust that somebody will see that, right? And not have to manage those teams across tens of GitHub things is awkward, right? Oh yeah, sorry, to a comment from How in the chat, Stack Overflow, as I say, took over from the mailing list in terms of questions tagged Ansible in about 2018. Right now, I think of all time, obviously the vast majority of which have been answered, I think there's about 20,000 posts on, topics on Stack Overflow that are tagged with Ansible. Now we can go back and forth about how good the quality is on Stack Overflow, but anyway. So that's the high level. That's why we think, this is why the community team thinks this is a good idea. I wrote this up as a community strategy in December. I brought this around the community in February. We had a bit of a discussion. Such voting bodies as we have thought it was a good idea. So I have been working with the rest of the community team, and big thanks to Carol Chen and to Walter Bentley for their help internally in getting it funded. But Discourse is very nearly here. In fact, actually, I have access to it already, but it's still private while we're setting it up. So I don't want to make promises about exactly when you're going to get access to it, but I have had some very good conversations with Gundalo and Rolrod and How and Shane about how we do this, and there seems to be a lot of love in the AWX community for being the first ones to try this, and so that makes me very happy. I need someone to do it. And so the basic game plan looks something like this. We get you guys set up. Once the forum is open to everybody, there will be an AWX group for the developers to be a part of, so that someone can @AWX rather than learning to name check specific people, because we don't want burnout, right? @AWX is a much better approach, and then somebody will go and pick that message up. We will have an AWX tag so that people can tag their posts, and that means anybody who wants to help with AWX support or development can, follow that tag, filter on that tag, save a search, whatever you want to do. And then we ideally move the mailing list over. So at some point, we put appropriate notifications over to the AWX mailing list, and eventually make it read-only. And then later in time, and this will be much later on because I kind of need to do it as a oneer, we move all the mailing lists to Discourse. We can import them into Discourse. We have all the project history there, all the support that's ever been done can all be brought into one place. But that has to wait until all the mailing lists have been made read-only. So it will still exist on Google Groups. People can still go there to reference things. Links they've got in their bookmarks folder will still work. But we want to get to a point where we stop using that and we start using the forum instead. Other things will be happening in parallel. I'm talking with the steering committee about collections and community topic voting and so on to happen at roughly the same time. So there's multiple things going on, more content for you all to look at. But those are going to be two of the first groups to get set up. And then we start looking at how we can expand it to the other parts of the community and start trying to bring as many people as possible on board. Right, that was a lot of talking. Questions?
I, for one, is very, very excited about this course. I personally want to bring like design discussions to this course, right? Like, let's say if we are collaborating with the community to design a new feature, we want to do it in the open and with the collaboration of the community. So I'm really excited about that.
Yep, that's absolutely one of the goals, and I've been chatting around internally to figure out what the right process is. All of this will be subject to a certain amount of iteration, right? We're going to try and get this right as close as we can, but we'll probably need to try a few things to figure it out. We do have a lot of good tools at our disposal in Discourse for this. In particular, the ability to create polls is very, very useful. Not going to necessarily say that we think everything should be solved with a poll, right? That's not always the right way, but the polling support in Discourse is much better than, say, using something like GitHub, right? Because you can limit them to certain groups, format them in various ways. You can do ranked choices. You can look at whether things are anonymous or not. I mean, to be fair, admins can always see, but you have a lot of choice around here. And there's more we want to do here as well. I haven't touched on things like the meetup structure, for example. We're going to put all of our events into Discourse so that you can get a surfacing of everything that's going on in the wider Ansible ecosystem about the meetups and conferences and things that people are going to and so on. There's just a great amount of tooling here. Also worth knowing, full API, of course. This is Discourse itself is open source. We will have access to webhooks for outbound stuff, and there's a full API for inbound stuff. So you can automate all sorts of fun things. In particular, one thing that's worth knowing about is we have chat integration. So if you want a notification of AWX tagged posts going into your AWX matrix room, we can absolutely make that happen. I've actually been testing that in our staff room for the last week or two, and that works really, really nicely. So you can have literally every post, or you can have just new topics only, or whatever makes sense. And we can do this on a per room basis, so other parts of the community might have different integrations. If people want to check it out, there's a link there from Christian in the chat, discourse.org. I would push you rather to meta.discourse.org because that's actually their forum for developing Discourse itself. You can also find quite a few other examples of this. So Python, for example, discuss.python.org. Kubernetes use it. I think that's community.kubernetes. There's quite a lot of operating systems, so Fedora is using it now on discussion, not plural, .fedoraproject.org. And then like the small communities as well. So my old community, the Foreman, community.theforeman.org is the site I used to run. Pulp use it, Let's Encrypt use it, Plotly use it. It's a big, it's popular as a way of organizing communities.
So I guess what how will our community know when this course is open and when to register, Greg?
Okay, so we're debating internally exactly how to do the launch. One thing we're concerned about is that we're right in the middle of August and everyone's on holiday. So we're probably not going to do a really big launch for the whole community until later. I don't want to say when, because we've got to decide when we're ready, and I don't like being held to that. Piece of string question, right? But for AWX, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to reach out to some of the people and just give you a play with it before it goes public, just to make sure that we've got things set up in a way that will work for AWX. Obviously, there's a limit to that because you need some content to work with, right? Until it's open to everybody else, it's not massively useful, but certainly a chance to kick the tires. Shortly after that, we'll probably make it live, but in a soft way, so we won't like make a big deal out of it. However, I will definitely be sure to post it to the AWX mailing list, so that people can start talking about it and using it and trying it out. And obviously, one of the things that comes with a web-based platform is invite buttons. So if you feel someone should be part of a debate, you can absolutely use that button and invite them yourself. You'll also have the ability to log in via GitHub. That's already working. I did that this morning. And we will do login with Google eventually, but that has some extra steps there. So you will eventually be able to log in both via GitHub or Google. GitHub already works. So yeah, keep an eye on the mailing list. I think that's probably the best thing to do. And then obviously we can do a bit of a viral thing with people inviting other people.
I will definitely help spread the words while when it comes to time. The call to action for the AWX community here is, let's make it work for us. Let's yeah.
I hope, knowing what I do about your triage processes and so on, I hope very much that this will help, and that it's going to be easier to keep track of what needs. So we very much like Stack Overflow, we have the solved plugin in the help section of the forum, so you can mark things as solved. And that'll be useful. So you can do a filter on your AWX tag, get help category, unsolved state, and there you are. That's everything that still needs dealing with, right? So that's going to help. The main thing to know is that we're not going to do any live integration between the mailing list and the forum. Some sites do that, but I feel it tends to draw attention to the mailing list, which is what we're trying not to do. Ideally, we get discussions moving over to discourse as soon as we can. Now, there is always a network effect here. People will not move a lot of times until the other thing goes away. But hopefully some discussions will, and we'll make sure that we set an appropriate timeline for the read-only-ness of the mailing list. And that will be in conjunction with the AWX community, right? That's not something that our team gets to decide. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Greg. Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, then. Thank you again, Greg, for all that great info. And we will go ahead and look over here. And it looks like next up on the agenda. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say before I go, thank you so much to the AWX community for being my beta testers with this. I am super excited, and I am extremely happy to have you on board. So I look forward to this. Okay, thank you very much, folks.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you again to Greg for that. Moving along to the database migration timeout issue. So we've got a few folks on the agenda for this one, and I will move along and pass it over to, it looks like, Eli, Hal, and Jeff.
All right. So a while ago, Eli reached out, and Eli, do you want to be the one that go over how we discover the problem?
Yeah, sure. Well, I can tell you how we discovered the problem. I can even share my screen if it is allowed. Just a second. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to show you the AWX issues that I opened, just to make it more clear. Yeah, well, about a week ago, we were upgrading our AWX environment from the version 22.3 to 22.5, and we got like a continuous loop. We found out that we cannot upgrade AWX to the newer version because it was running the migration task, and this migration task was never ended because it was stopped every time when the pod that is running this task is restarting. And well, actually, I just went to Element and started talking with AWX Community, and I was seeking for advice, and many people came to help me in this problem because this database was production database, and it was a problem to make a rollback in this case. And so we found out that there is a logic that makes retries, and when we run the upgrade, the AWX operator is defining some task that makes the migration. And after it starts the migration, it does the retry attempts according to this logic. So it, as far as I understand, if it runs more than about 15 minutes, it restarts the pod, and this pod runs this migration task again and again and again. So that means that if we have some kind of heavy database migration task, like it is described here, it can never end in case of the big database. In our case, our production database is huge. It's about 1 terabyte of data. And then Hao just returned from vacation, and he connected to Element, and we found a solution together. It's not a permanent solution, it's just a workaround because we were on fire because of the problem in production. And what we did, we just scaled in all of our deployments to 0, so nothing will run according to AWX operator by following the AWX operator controller manager. And we just changed the definition of AWX task. So instead of running the task itself, instead of running the container logic itself, it runs the AWX migrate command. And when it finished running, it just finished running and it stopped, it was in kind of pending state. But the main thing here is that it finished running. It took about half an hour for it to finish. So it's twice more time than 15 minutes that we have according to the current logic. And I've documented this workaround because I know that there are other clients with huge databases, and they will maybe need it till the permanent fix is merged to the new version of AWX. And about the permanent fix, I think that how could you take it from here?
Sure. It's actually Jeff's gonna. By the way, Jeff Bradbury is back to the AWX project. Let's give it a second to welcome Jeff. He is our resident Django and Postgres expert. He took a hiatus and went to work on another project for a short period of time, but he's finally back. And he's going to go over the solution that he had implemented.
Am I? Okay, sure. Yeah, okay. So what I've done is, some of these data migrations are for these tables are going to be expensive, as you've discovered. So for the tables that I expect to be larger, broadly speaking, the ones that are more like the job records rather than template records, we're kicking off a asynchronous task to do the data migration, right? So the migration, it's still the same migration, main 0185, has been rewritten slightly so that the old column is moved aside, a new, fresh, empty column is created, and then tasks kick off when controller comes up to move, cast the old data as JSON-B and move them over to the new columns. when all of that's complete, it drops the old column, and so it knows that it doesn't need to run again for that table.
And for the long term, like to kind of bust through the 30-minute time limit, we don't want to just blindly up the time limit because we're just delaying the problem, right? Christian, Adam, and I have discussed alternative way of driving the migration. One, there is currently two ideas around that. One is to have migration done within
init
what's it called?
container or
Init container, right? And the second idea is to have this to have the migration run in there's a separate container that we start up. I think currently we're leaning towards the init container. And Christian, I think like if we have this course, right, this will be somewhere this will be where we put the idea on this course and discuss openly about which way do we want to go. But in the meantime, I think we will open a GitHub issue in the AWX operator repo to track how we plan to proceed here and the pros and cons of the different approaches. If anyone is interested in following that along, Christian, once you open the issue, let's post it in Element. And
yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I think Discourse would be a great place to talk about this. Also, we in the EDA server operator have kind of implemented both of these approaches. So it'll be good to be able to look at those PRs and be able to compare and contrast and hopefully come to the right solution for AWX.
so what was the solution that you ultimately went with for the EDA operator?
We ultimately ended up going with the init container. So migrations will happen like in an init container before the containers for the pod proper come up. But I am not 100% convinced that we won't have conflicts with migrations running from multiple replicas of that same pod as they come up. So when we tested that, we didn't run into any conflicts, but there weren't a lot of migrations to run. So if we have more migrations, it'll take longer for migrations to run, and there'd be an increased chance in hitting that conflict. So yeah, that's kind of like the con of the init container. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, so ideally we still want to be able to keep the migration like as short as possible, right? Having to wait 30 minutes for your application to come up is not the ideal situation. And also, one con I suppose I can see about the init container is that AWX, I think, serve that like a page that says, application like database migrating when it's not ready. And I think moving to init container, that probably disappears, right? We no longer have a status page that says, hey, by the way, we're migrating.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. This work, whichever approach we take, kind of enables us to be able to have proper readiness and liveliness probes.
Right.
There's a couple issues that community members have opened, or PRs that community members have opened around this that, we would love to solve that once and for all in the right way, and, get migrations happening outside of the container that will remain running. And then add readiness and liveliness probes. Because the problem was that the migrations would time out the readiness and liveliness probes. So yeah, doing them in a init container or Kate's job would solve that issue.
Question. So you're saying that the code base would be running while the migrations are taking place. What's the how is it going to be handled when the code, the currently up-to-date code, does not match the schema, which is not yet finished migrating and might throw exceptions?
Well, if it's done in a init container, then the task container wouldn't even start until the init container concludes.
So it is
So-
blocking. It is blocking
Correct.
then. Okay, I did not understand that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and furthermore, the previous task deployment scales down as and then the init container starts running, and then the new replica comes up. So yeah, good question.
there might be a rolling upgrade behavior here that we need to take into account. But anyway, for those who are curious about this topic, it is something ongoing that we want to resolve. But thank you very much, Eli, for bringing this very important problem to us. And thank you, Jeff. I'm so glad you're back.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your help. I love you.
We love you too.
All right. Thanks everyone who spoke to that particular topic. So next on our agenda, we have the AWX operator documentation change, and that one is Christian again. So let me go ahead and I will pass it over to Christian.
Okay. So can you see a terminal?
I do not see a terminal.
Oh man. Oh, there we go. Sorry. There's always like a second window that I have to hit.
Yeah, for Fedora. Yeah, I understand.
There we go. All right, we got it. So what I want to show you is, well, I just took away all the surprise and awe moment there, but wanted to first show you all of the PRs that got us to this point. So Sam McCann and Don Naro and a lot of community members have helped in this effort to refactor our AWX operator docs and soon also the AWX docs, so that we can make a read the docs site. So everyone knows and loves README in Markdown. I live in Markdown. I have like my own repo that I keep all my personal notes in Markdown files. Like Markdown's not going anywhere. Everything is still going to be in Markdown. We're not moving to RST or anything like that. But we figured out a way to build a read the doc site from the Markdown files, and splitting all of those into separate nested Markdown files made that a lot easier, and helped us to finally organize the massive monolithic README. So there's a ton of PRs here. I think they might be listed in the issue for this meeting, but I don't know, 9 or 10 PRs, many from community folks. So thank you so much for your involvement here, Desmond and Lulu. At least that's, I will mess up your actual name, so I'll just okay, so what I wanted to show is how to build them. So now that everything's merged, if you go to a AWX operator checkout, like git clone AWX operator, and then you cat the docs README, you'll see there's 2 steps. So first off, install the Python dependencies. There aren't a ton, and I already installed them, so that should not take long. And then the next step is make docs build. Maybe I made this too big. There we go. So now, after running make docs build, we have a site directory, and let's go in that. And you'll see we have an index.html. So if I go here in my file explorer and double click on the index.html, ta-da! We have actual docs rendered. So it's a little sparse in places. We still need to reorganize a little bit, but you'll see, all this is broken up. So like basic install, it's pretty populated, and Minikube cluster and setting up Helm, all this stuff. So all of the docs are still there. They've just been moved around and broken up into smaller sections. So this is where we're at. Where we want to get to is some of you have expressed a need for searching, because I think we've all gone to the big README and done a Control F for that one setting that we forgot the name of. So we definitely still want to be able to do that. So right now, let's see, advanced settings. Where's that? Oh yeah, advanced configuration down here. That would be a bug that we need to fix. The advanced configuration section, like you can't scroll down on the side. So I'll fix that. But yeah, right now a lot of those settings are in this advanced configuration section. What we want to do is add in a search bar so that you can just go to the top right and click search and type in what you're looking for, and then it'll bring you to the right section. You could achieve that right now by searching in GitHub and searching in the docs directory too. So many improvements to come. The other thing that we want to do is move things around a little bit more so that we don't have like 5 or 6 really sparse pages like this. So keep an eye out for improvements. I think we're headed in a really good direction. And that is all I have for that. Any questions before we move on to the next one?
I really want to do something like this for the AWX repo as well. As many of us might already know, the AWX doc, the in repo doc definitely needs some tender loving care. There's a lot of outdated information, and it's probably not organized in the best way. Like I do blind grips in here all the time. So is there any effort to is there any upcoming effort to one, get the community doc site up for AWX?
There certainly can be. So we were kind of doing a trial on the AWX operator, and the efforts also started on the EDA server operator. But as long as we have something to work from, which we do in that docs directory, we can invite the community team folks in, and they can help us with like refactoring, reorganizing, setting up the docs. So definitely let's talk to Don and Sam, either on Matrix or Slack. And then, yeah, we can get that moving. The key point there is that we'll probably need to spend some time going through what we currently have in the docs directory, moving it around, updating it, because you're right, there's a lot of stuff that's a bit rusty and dusty. So, but yeah, I would love to see that happen. Oh, did we lose Hal?
No, I'm still here. Yeah. Hopefully, when the effort starts, we will dedicate some time and resources to help cleaning up the AWX doc. so that it help better serve us for like figuring out, let's say, what configuration parameter meant, or like how to start up with development. By the way, a short plug for John Westcott. He's starting a developer series on our YouTube channel, helping people getting started with getting the AWX development environment up and running. and like, follow, and subscribe. But when the doc effort starts, please help us. Help us look over the doc. Help us clean up the doc. We will invest time into making it work for us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christian. So let's go ahead. It looks like we've got a few more things on the agenda here. Bear with me just a moment. Okay. Okay, there we go. So since we do have a few more things on the agenda here, let's go back and look. Would we like to just go ahead straight to the upgrade, or is there, looks like we're all in-house people. So we'll go ahead and move along just as a time check. It is almost 11:40, but I will go ahead and pass it over to Jessica Mack.
Okay, hello.
Hello, hello.
All right, making sure I can be heard. I can also keep this pretty quick since it's been not necessarily straightforward, but what needed to be done is pretty direct. Okay, we're moving from Python 3.9 to 3.11 because 3.11 is the new stable version and 3.9 is only currently receiving security fixes. Most of what that has involved is updating our make files and Docker files to all move to 3.11. Which has occasionally caused some issues in configuration because a lot of our testing setup still defaults to 3.9, and it's been having it pop up, oh, it's failing tests, it's still using 3.9, and we've updated everything else to use 3.11. So fix that, tests start passing. Upgrading requirements, we had a couple of pinned packages that we needed to upgrade. One we had to start pinning because the company changed names, and then it was breaking our usages because once you upgrade it, stricter about that. And fixing tests that broke, one of which thankfully Jeff is back and helped explain because he had ran into the same issue before where argparse is much stricter in 3.11 than it was in 3.9. So now we can get that test passing as well. And yeah, right now we've got most of our QE test passing. Cesar, before he had to, handle other things, we had confirmed that RHEL 8.8 and 9 are now passing tests. I think I'm going to talk with Jesse today and make sure that all of his tests are passing as well. And the current PR is passing all tests. So we're just going to clean up anything that doesn't need to be there from when we were troubleshooting changes, and then we can close this out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that update. Do we have any? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Hap.
Jessica, how does this impact like people who's developing and using AWX?
If the answer is it just works, that's also great.
Okay, yeah, then preferably it should just work. I don't know if they would have made any changes personally to their version of AWX that were 3.9 dependent, which they might have to update. But other than that, hopefully this will be a seamless change in the background.
For most people who's using our operator-based deployments, it should just work since this is a containerized application. There should not be any impact to you. But if you are directly using some of the make targets, I think we explicitly call out to Python 3.11 in certain points, right? If you search in the make file anywhere that mentions capital Python, that will now use Python 3.11. So, update once this PR lands, update your virtual environments to use Python 3.11. And that should be it, right?
Yeah, if you have anything that is currently in your environment pinned to 3.9, then yeah, it would need to be updated to 3.11 because that's a lot of what was the changes for this.
And if you are using the Docker Compose development environment, this obviously impacts packages that's within the Docker Compose development environment. So you will have to pull down the new development environment based images. Just a heads up. The PR number is
14257.
Yep, 14257. All right, that's it.
Hey,
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to mention, since y'all are on this, you should mention that Python 3.11 got some huge performance boosts. We haven't done tests yet, but just the interpreter itself and the Python platform got 10 to 60% faster between 3.10 and 3.11.
That's definitely exciting. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for speaking to that topic, and Jessica in particular for addressing that one. So next on the docket, we have the upgrade to Postgres 15 as a default, and that one is Christian and John.
Whoops. Hey, yeah, there we go. So John was kind enough to start PR for the AWX operator bits that need to change to be able to upgrade from Postgres 13 to 15. Guess I can walk through the PR just a little bit at a high level. I won't take up too much time. The big thing that I want to call out from this work is that where is that PR? Why does it not go up? Did someone merge it already? There we go. I had it on closed, of course. So yeah, the big thing I want to call out is that we are switching to SEL-org images for Postgres. And actually, I'm not sure if I did it in this PR yet or not, but we'll be doing the same for the Redis images. And the big reason behind doing this is that the Postgres data dir path will be the same everywhere. Because the rel images, they have a different path. It's like varlib pgsql instead of varlib postgresql. So this is a huge improvement in my eyes. But I just want to call it out because if users have specified a custom Postgres data dir path, this may affect them. And the other thing is if you're mirroring images, this may affect you as well. So yeah, and I'll link this PR because, shameless plug, I would love some reviews on this PR. It's ready to go. I was able to run through an upgrade from 13 to 15 yesterday. So the big, other than bumping version numbers here, the big changes, we've kind of, John and I both worked to rewrite the logic for upgrading Postgres and migrating the data over from the old version to the new version in such a way that in the future, when we bump the Postgres version, it'll be much easier. The logic was kind of hard-coded for versions in the past. So this will make things a lot smoother going forward. And that is all I got, unless, John, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just add from the AWX side, there's a separate PR for doing AWX itself. And if you're using the Docker development environment, it's not super smooth to upgrade, but we do have instructions in that PR on how to upgrade like a local Postgres into the new world. And for brevity, that's all I'm going to add.
Awesome. I'll put a link in the chat here. Oh, looks like Hal beat me to it. All right. Thanks, Hal.
Thank you so much, Christian and John. So it looks like we just have a couple more here. All righty. So next up, there is a call to action for reviewing and testing the HopNode feature. Seth, would you like to speak to that one?
Yep. So I think as most people here know, this has been a feature that we've been working on and it's getting really close. And so we have this PR called HopNodes for Kubernetes, and we could use some testing on this, some feedback if people want to try it out. We have an action in GitHub that builds this image every single night. So you can see it's ghcr.io Ansible AWX feature _ hop node. So if you just put that in as your image and image version in your spec file, you should be able to just deploy it to a cluster and you would have the feature to test out. So it allows you to be able to set up like configurations that look like this, right? We have a control node. We have an execution node, which isn't new, but the new part is you can now set up an execution node to peer into the mesh network through a variety of hop nodes. And this can all be configured through the API. And you run install bundles to provision and set up those instances. So we can certainly use some feedback on this. I would love to talk to people if they plan to use this feature. So just head over to this PR here. It's on under AWX. You can just go to PRs and type hop, search for it, and just drop your comments there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Seth. Alrighty, and I believe we only have one more left. Okay, there's an announcement here. So there is a change in the release cadence. John, would you like to speak to that one?
So we've decided to move up the release cadence of AWX from every 3 weeks to every 2 weeks. And instead of releasing on Monday, we're now going to release on Tuesdays. So hopefully, I believe next week is the first Tuesday where we're going to start this process. So you should see a release next Tuesday and then every 2 weeks after that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, John. And then it looks like Jake had something to say about Ansible meetups in Durham.
Yeah, it's just quick. The meetup in Durham was recorded. We're trying a new streaming setup. So hopefully folks who aren't in Durham can attend. The latest one, the recording is found there. I'll also link that in the agenda as well. But just wanted to drop a note there that we're trying to push the meetup outside of just the RDU area. So.
Oh, that's great and very exciting. Thank you, Jake. Okay, and that does conclude everything that we had scheduled and brings us over to general Q&A and discussion. So would we like to continue the recording or have the Q&A outside of the recording? I believe Hao is running the recording.
We can keep the recording on for a little bit. Does anyone have anything that they would like to discuss? Questions, comments, anything's welcome. Personal story about AWX.
Selfies with the Rage Tater to share.
Yeah, we need a space for that.
Yeah.
We should have in our discourse, we need a specific channel just for Spud related content.
I absolutely agree. All right. If there's not any topic, I think we can close the recording here. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm gonna stop the recording.